The avot that we discussed in our Mishnah are learned out from the Chumash, from the psukim that talk about nezek. We're going to discuss where do they come from, and from that point, when we discuss what the avot are, why the Mishnah picked for avot, then we can further understand what are the toldot and how do we apply this to other cases. Because personally, I don't have an ox in my house. I don't have any other animals that wander out eating. I don't dig so many holes, and I don't light so many fires, yet the avot and Zdikin are related to me, are relevant to me. So the first one we're going to discuss is going to be the boar. The Pasuk tells us that if somebody digs a hole, they are obligated to make sure that no one gets hurt. Not just nobody, but nothing gets damaged because of that that hole. That is called bor. Hole. It's learned from the pasuk in Shemot, Chaf Aleph Lamed Gimel, Ki yiftach ish bor, or ki yikera ish bor, v'lo yichasenu, v'nafal sham asho or chamor. If somebody opens up, meaning they dig a hole, or they procure one, they don't cover it. Lo yichasenu, v'nafal sham asho or chamor. Nobody, say a donkey or a cow or an ox, something falls into it and it gets injured. Baal habor yishalom kesef yashiv l'balav v'hamet yelo. He has to pay for the damage that he caused, that he incurred. This is a classic case. You have a hole in the ground, an animal falls into it, and it becomes injured or it dies. Now, Chazal mentioned that in order to be obligated for killing the animal, it has to be at least 10 tefachim deep. That is because if it's less than 10 tefachim deep, it's not really dangerous enough to actually kill something. And the fact that it died is sort of coincidence. It's an incident that it wasn't within our control to manage, and it shouldn't have happened. It's unfortunate that it happened, but he's not really going to be liable for that. If it's 10 tefachim deep, the goal is 10 tefachim, just approximately 3 feet. That is deep enough that it could reasonably kill the animal, and if the animal were to die, then they would be obligated to pay for that. If it's less than 10 tefachim deep and the animal is injured, injury can happen at any depth, and the boar's owner would have to pay the animal's owner. The Baal Habor would have to pay the Baal Hashor in any case. Now, the limitations we see is there are many, many situations where something can get hurt, something can be damaged. That's not just a hole. How many people dig holes on a regular basis? It's not normal. So the case that we're going to deal with is figuring out how this this specific case that is discussed in the Mishnah, can be applied to other circumstances. We're going to deal with that after we go through the other avot. The second av that we're going to deal with is hever. Hever is lighting a fire. It's if somebody lights a fire and it spreads out out of control, it's going to lead to somebody getting damaged, something getting damaged, and it's very clear. That is again a very clear pasuk, and I'm going out of order of the Mishnah because the other two are a little more complicated. I want to focus on these two first. Shmot Chavbet Hey. כי תצא אש ומעצה קוצים ונחל גדיש אור הקמה אור השדה שלם ישלם המבעיר et habera. Somebody lights a fire, or a fire goes out from somebody's property. It catches thorns, it catches brush, catches something else. V'nechal kadish, or akama, it eats, the fire consumes, burns something that was valuable, something that did not want to be caught on fire. He has to pay, the mavir, the person who lit the fire, has to pay for this fire. Again, this is very, very clear. This is a very clear situation of this is a fire that he lit and it burned something else. Could happen to most people. Most people are very careful with their fires or don't light fires on a regular basis. It's probably the more responsible way of doing things. So we're going to have to figure out how this this very specific case in the Torah, is going to apply to other circumstances, to other things. But this from the Torah is kitetze esh. Fire goes out, v'matzah kotzim, v'nechal gadish or hakama. The fire goes out, it burns something unintentionally. How do we apply that then to another case? This is the Av of Hever. I have saved Shor and Mave for last, even though it's out of order, because they're a little more confusing. They are both found in the Torah, but they're found in a strange way. They both look like two different avot that are not relevant. The first one I'm going to look at, which is the most misleading, is where we actually see the word Shor in the Torah. The Pasuk tells us, Shemot Chaf Aleph, Lamed Hey, Ki yigov shor ish or shor rehu v'met v'machro et ashor v'chai v'chatsu et kaspo v'gam et hamit yachatsu. If somebody's shore, literally the shore, goes out and it kills another one, it gores it, it attacks it with its horns, it attacks another animal, that owner of the animal that attacks is obligated to pay for the damage that they caused, or their animal caused the other person. They're obligated if it hurts a person or an animal. So it looks like that's a terrific example of nezek related to a shore. That is not what our Mishnah is talking about. That is a category of nezek, that's true, and it's discussed extensively all over the place in the Talmud, in the Mishnah, in the other parts of Talmud. That is not one of the avot of our discussion. That is a more aggressive form of nezek. That is something different. It's not accidental. You have to be careful with their bull. Have you ever seen a bullfight? A bull, natural instinct is to attack. That is not what we're talking about here. I put that here so because you should know that shor is present in the Torah, but that is not actually what it refers to here. In Chav Bet Daled, I tried to put them all on. I put the wrong parak there. It's okay. Ki yever ish tzadei arkerem mishilach et biro v'biras v'sadeh acher metiv sadehu metiv karmo v'shalem. Although that actually looks like the shorish of Hever, a little bit confusing, that is referring to, I'll explain the translation, of sending out an animal, sending out something in a field that winds up going and eating other things. The Chazal learn that shilach, and shilach, since we have another pasuk that already talks about Eish, talks about fire, we can learn at least either this refers to the shore or learn both that a shore, shilach, goes out. There's another pasuk in Ishayahu where it talks about hashor and mishalche, regel. Mishalche, they learn from the same shoresh of shilach, the word shilach, shin lamed chet, and mishalche, shin lamed chet, is called a drasha, because there are shavah sorts, so connect the two of them. It's referring to a shore, and it's the regel. They combine this. The details of that drasha are not important for right now. It's very interesting to understand how they made this connection, how they knew to make this connection, or how they had it. But it refers to any animal that's going out, walking along, and accidentally, because of its regel, because of its foot, walking causes damage. It is while walking through the field causes damage, or walking through a property, some area causes damage. This is the Av of Shor, as we talked about. If the animal is clumsy, if the animal is just big and should not have been brought to a place and it causes damage because of its body, because of its foot, walking in a derech tenu'ah, derech a movement, halucha, that is the Av of Shor. That is still a fairly specific explanation from the Chumash. This one's a little more abstract because it has to be learned out from a drasha, but it is still a specific case. The Av is only when the animal is walking. But it's regel. Remember, that's the root of this. It's actually also the nickname of this Av. We'll see that in the Bartanur a little bit later. The Av is when the animal is walking and causes some sort of nezek. What is similar to this Av, now it's a different Av, but it's similar in the fact that it's literally learned from the exact same pasuk. The previous pasuk that we mentioned, or the previous time we mentioned this pasuk, we're referring to a connection that they learned from Yeshayahu, that it's regel. But the basic understanding, what's called the pashut pshat, The words, this is what they say. Kiver ish tzader kerem b'shilach et biro, ve'er b'sadeh acher metav sadehu metav karma yishalem. Kiver ish, this idea of consuming, of burning fire, but it's not literally burning, it's the animal eating, the animal consuming, just like the ish was nechal, the animal is nechal. Yiver means to consume. The animal's eating in b'sadeh kerem, it's eating in someone else's field. It's in somebody else's vineyard. He sent his animal, he sent him to graze. The animal went out to graze, it starts eating. It's not his field. It's terrific, kind of like Abraham and Lot. They were concerned. Abraham would make sure that his shepherds would not graze their animals in anyone else's field. And Lot wasn't as careful with the shepherds. Because it's stealing. The person has these crops growing, the animal's eating them, they didn't pay for them, it's a form of stealing. The animal goes into somebody else's property, somebody else's field, and eats them, eats their stuff. That is a form of nezek. That is a form of destroying something. We would apply that to any animal that eats something in someone else's yard. That was the garden case we talked about in Shir. That is, if someone has a nice garden or something else, and their animal, another person's animal, eats that stuff, that is nezek. Metiv sadehu metiv karmo yishalem. He has to pay for the property that was consumed. Now, again, this is a very specific case. This is an animal that eats another person's property. All these cases in the Torah are very, very specific. They can't be applied to anything else. Let's say my animal were to scratch its back on a fence post, but it's a really big animal, and it broke the fence post. Which of the avos would that apply to? Let's say I had something sharp or dangerous on top of my roof, and it fell down. That caused damage. I definitely should have secured it. I definitely should have put up something to make sure nothing happens. It's certainly nezek. Which one is it? Which case is going to be, which av is that going to fall under? So that is the reason that we have the avot and the toldot. The avot are the specific cases that we found in the Chumash. The Torah tells us certain cases, there are these cases of nezek. These are the paradigm, the very clear examples. Maybe it was more common when the Torah was given, but even in the days of Chazal, there are other forms of nezek. There are other ways to cause nezek. So our goal now is to figure out what the toldot are. The toldot are offspring, literally. They come out from the avot. I learn from the av. I know that there are other cases which are similar, but not exactly what I found in the Chumash. These cases of the toldot, they're going to be the extensions and how we're going to apply nezek to all other areas. For example, if I were to take a robot and I send the robot out, I program it, and it does damage along the way, that has certain qualities. The qualities are that it's not alive, it can't think. I sent it, and it's moving. That would be like, hey there. Now, there's no fire involved. It wasn't something that's burning up and consuming, but it's causing damage in a moving way that I sent and inanimate. Again, the fence post case. The animal is not just clumsy, it's trying to scratch its back, it's rubbing against it. There's hana'ah, there's benefit to the animal. That would be maveh. We're going to see, as we do the Bartanora, as the next step, that there are these other ways of applying the avot as not just a specific case, this is the rule and the only rule, but this is an example. This is the dugma to how we can apply other forms of nezek in life. And from this, we can really apply these four cases to hundreds, thousands, infinite amount of cases of other nezek in our lives and really apply the Torah everywhere.